Hopefully the audio comes through all right on this. My name's Jay from Forgotten Sea here in Palantir. Wanted to go through a brief video, kind of off the cuff, on what is pelling, why to do it, and how to do it. This is going to be kind of a rehash of some videos that Duke Sven from Monstewar has done, as well as Esquire Valor here recently. But Sven taught me how to pel correctly for the SCA. As most of you know, my background is in foam fighting, amp guard specifically, and transitioning over to the SCA. This is what I was taught, and this is what I still practice. So just kind of from my perspective, stuff you can work on and do at your house to help with your shot mechanics. Starting off, pelling is training. Pelling is practicing. There's no, if you look at heavy combat specifically in as a sport or having aspects of a sport, we're the only sport where not everybody trains. People practice, people fight, people compete, but sparring isn't necessarily training. Training involves drilling. Training involves things that aren't always fun, so that sparring and that fighting get better. Pelling's just one drill of those. What it does is it makes your mechanics easier, which makes the fight easier. The less your brain has to devote to figuring out how to throw a shot, figuring out where to throw a shot, you can devote more of your mental energy to thinking angles, thinking ranges, thinking, more contextually about the fight itself and less on what you have to do. So an easy way to get started on that is with something called the 1 through 6 drill. What that is it's separating the pel into 6 different target areas, with starting at the bottom on your onside shots being 1 would be an onside leg, 2 would be an onside body, 3 would be an onside head, 4 offside head, 5 would be offside body, 6 would be offside leg. The same thing going for the other hand, or if you're a lefty or you want to practice fighting two-sword or just offhanded, 1 would now be onside leg here on the other side, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 respectively. Starting off, you're not swinging for power. You're not swinging, or at least initially, you're not swinging for extreme speed. You're swinging for everything to be mechanically sound. If I'm pelling specific shots, I go ahead and do a full kinetic chain, trying to, initiate my hip, initiate my foot on the ground, get everything going. Warming up, and especially for practice, for pelling practice, shots are created through a kinetic chain. Everything in your body moves towards, just like if you're throwing a punch, it's the exact same with the shot. But the weakest chain is your arm. You can throw shots from the body. You can turn that hip and hit the bag with your hip all day. Your hip isn't going to necessarily what fatigues. If you fought heavy a lot, typically it's your short arm that starts to go first. So pelling, from an endurance sense, can strengthen that arm and kind of shore up the weakest link in delivering your strikes. So starting off, the shots aren't all driven from the hip as hard as you can, but you're getting good shoulder engagement, good engagement of your arm, specifically good engagement of your forearm for the shot delivery, which is one tiring aspect, and secondarily focus is the shot recovery. Duke Sven talks about maintaining a shape. When he talks at shape, it's that 90-degree angle in your arm that is kind of your apex of power, the source of your power. So throwing a shot, you're going to get the best transfer of power starting at that 90, and then when you follow through, you can come in or out of that depending on your shot angle and recover back to that 90. And as soon as that angle is retained, you can throw another shot. If I'm out at C range, I can do the same thing. Getting to my shape, I can throw, recover, throw. I don't have to cock back over my head. I don't have to kind of chamber off my shoulder. I can throw all with my hand in front of me, generating sufficient power just by rotating from that 90. That was a long rant to set up the 1 through 6 drill. 1 through 6 drill is a body mechanics and endurance drill that done regularly, can really improve your ability to fight. So you're starting off with 1, and you'll swing at 1 twice. So it would start off with 1, 1. So I'll throw. It would move to 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, which would now be onside leg, offside head. 1, 5, onside leg, offside body. 1, 6, onside leg, offside leg. All of those shots, I'm attempting to drive from my arm, drive from my elbow, and transfer a good amount of energy into it. But I'm getting that kind of SCA minimum with mostly my arm. Why that's done, as Duke Sven explains, is that if you can deliver a minimum shot from the shoulder, from the arm, just getting then you can add sauce to that as you go on. You can add in wraps, you can add in the hip, you can add in that core movement, and be able to go from minimum up rather than only throwing those, super big shots. Because pelling, to me personally, is about creating balance. Everybody's had, fighters that every time they throw, they're cocked back, home run derby throwing big bombs. Everybody's fought fighters that are quick, but everything's landing tippy tappy and isn't sufficient. So pelling is about finding that balance for yourself, and being able to replicate it and establish consistency. The drill continues on. After you've completed 1, you would move to 2 being the first shot. So you would throw 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, then 2, 6. You do the same, it'd be 3, 1, 3, 2, and it repeats all the way through. If you want to, I recommend it for everybody, but you can also switch left-handed and do the same drill starting 1 on the onside. That's just for chops. The outside of the 1 through 6 drill, pelling's great for being creative, working on shots you've seen. Just throwing shots at practice isn't enough. If you come out to practice and you're working on a new shot, it's great, but until you pellet, it's hard to have that committed. It's hard to be able to replicate it. It's hard to do it consistently. You ever watch UFC, boxing, all the coolest knockout highlight reel stuff? That's not the first time they've thrown it. That's not the 10th time they've thrown it. They've thrown it hundreds of times in practice, in training, and that's what we're trying to do. So, creating shots, creating things, you can play at the pellet and just mess around. You'll know if stuff doesn't work. But generating consistency, shoring up your weaknesses, and getting comfortable throwing shots is going to lead to your endurance increasing, specifically your fight endurance, and being able to get more practice time in, more efficiency, and conserving energy. Everything you do, you want to be able thinking economy of motion. You want to think, what's the shortest path? Make sure your shots are coming, from guard to the bag and returning to the bag. The more that you rodeo a shot, where it's recovering high and around the head, the more that you drag your sword back or drag it back to your chamber, that is slowing you down in the long run and increasing that shot-to-shot speed. So try stuff at home. If there's any questions or comments, this is just kind of an impromptu thoughts on the pel and what you should be doing. Feel free to comment with anything. I'll try to address it down the line.